In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a completely 100% on-chain collection on the Tezos blockchain, meaning that all of the artwork that you see here, including the thumbnail of the collection, all exist completely on-chain. There's zero reliance on IPFS. The images themselves are not being drawn from any other location. They all completely exist on the blockchain in the form of code. The browser is interpreting that code to visualize these pieces. If that sounds like something you want to do, I've put a timestamp a little bit further ahead that you can jump to, which will give you all the steps in how to do that and hopefully break it down so that it's as simple as possible. I've also put a bunch of links in the description below that you'll need, along with some downloads to be able to follow along. The collection you can see here that's on Objkt.com, as I've said, is completely on-chain. All of the sprites that you see here are directly being used in the game that I've created called Samsara, which is part of the Retroman universe. The game is still in development with the developer Not a Number. This is just a short clip that I'll show you here. So you can see the images on this game you'll notice are actually in that collection. Even though it's not attached to the blockchain, it's going to be a completely separate game. But I think it's a really nice idea to make the collectibles be the actual sprites in the game. I think this is a really unique way of doing that. Rather than them just existing on IPFS, all of the sprites, because they're small in size, they exist directly on the blockchain. The idea of this came when I saw another really great artist called Kyle Flemmer, who'd created a collection called Microcosmos. And as you can see here, all of the pieces that he has minted all exist exactly the same, completely on chain. And you'll notice when you go into them, they're very small, so 240 pixels by 240 pixels and 1.76 kilobytes size. It's a PNG image. And when you click on the properties tab down here, there's normally an IPFS link here that says this is how you can view the artwork. But actually, no, this is completely code and it exists on the blockchain. And I asked Kyle how he did it, and he forwarded me on to an artist called JestemZero, who has a really unique collection that they're creating across multiple blockchains. And on those other blockchains, they're also creating these on-chain, but there wasn't currently a way for them to get these SVG files directly onto Tezos in a way that they show up on Objkt. So they created this, what's named the Zero contract, to be able to do that, and then has shared that contract for others to use as well, which is not only amazing, it's really generous as well. JestemZero has a pinned tweet on their X profile, which I'll put again a link in the description below, where you can go and read a little bit about the background, the contract, and there is actually instructions in there on how to deploy. So I thought if I make a video, it would help others as well. But I think this post that JestemZero has created is a really good resource and reference when you're doing it. So that's a bit about the history of it. There are methods of creating on-chain art, but for creating artwork that you made in something, say like Photoshop or Sprite, or a GIF or something that you created or something like that. I don't think there's a way to encode that at the moment, or there wasn't before this, to encode that directly into Tezos. Not in an easy way anyway. So JestemZero has created this contract which actually simplifies the process so much. It's now putting that ability into everybody's hands. And having on-chain artwork means that you will never, the people collecting from you don't actually need to trust the fact that the artwork will exist on IPFS. They know that they're not just buying the token of the artwork, they're buying the actual artwork itself directly on the blockchain. And I think that's something really special. Not to detract from artwork that's on IPFS, because I have a lot of art on there as well, but I think this just creates it something a little bit more special. So what I'm going to do is show you all of the websites that you're going to need in order to go through this process. They're all in the description below. You can click the links in there. I'm just going to walk you through each individual site first, and then we can work through minting the collection and then minting individual pieces of art. The first website is the faucet on Ghostnet. This is going to allow you to fund a GhostNet wallet on Tezos so that you can practice. It's all for free, but it allows you to practice minting without spending any of your own money. And then when you're ready to actually mint your final collection on Mainnet, you've already done all the practice tests and hopefully there'll be no errors. The next site is Better Call Dev, and there's a few different links for this. This link here that you're seeing is for the actual contract for the collection, which we're going to download. The next is the deploy page, and then one more on Better Call Dev is, let's move over, is going to be the interact tab. We're also going to have GhostNet Objkt page open as well, which you'll need to log into. We're going to need the Code Beautify website, which allows you to convert string to hex, which means string is normal text and then hex creates values in numbers and a few letters out of that. And then finally, we're going to have easygift.com, which is going to allow you to convert your artwork from the image into an actual code that can be used so that the blockchain and the browser can read it. So let's start with Tezos Faucet. We need to connect our wallet first. So I'm just going to click Connect Wallet. I use Temple. So once we've connected our wallet, you'll see here on this side, you'll see the wallet address. And at the moment it's showing how much Tez I've got in there. So this is just a fictional amount, it's not a real amount, but it allows you to do tests. And I can fund this with as much as I want, so I can just go request by sliding this slider, or I can type in an amount. So I can type in 100 or even 50 and click request. Once I've requested, we've just got to wait for it to solve the challenges, and then that amount of Tez will be deposited in our GhostNet account. So there we go, it says your Tez is on the way. And if I check my wallet, I'll have to switch from Tezos Mainnet to GhostNet by clicking this up here, clicking GhostNet, and you'll see that the funds should be there any moment. So I requested an extra 50, so yeah, I believe the extra 50 went through, and we can see there in the transactions 50 Tez has gone through. So once we've got the wallet funded, we're going to want to download the actual contract that JestemZero created. Firstly, I would suggest creating a little folder on your computer where you can put all of the assets. That includes the contract, and it will also include the artwork and any of the code that you create. We're then going to jump over to Better Call Dev, and this is the contract code that was created by JestemZero, and we're going to download this. So you can see the code here, and we're in the code tab, and I'm just going to click download here and put it into the folder that I've created, which is called On-Chain Tutorial. Click Save. And you're going to need a text editor to view it. You want to make sure it's actually in plain text. That's because some of the formatting can mess up the code, so just be careful of that. Now in this code, this contract, you're going to need to find where the only Tezos address is, which is here. You can actually do a Control or Command F and just type in TZ, and you should find where the address is. And you're going to need to copy your address right in there. And then I can save. Now you might find that it saves it as a .txt file. You're going to need to change that back to a .tz file. So remove the .txt and change that to TZ, and that's exactly how you want it formatted, and it should still open. We then want to jump back over to Better Call Dev, and I've given the deploy link below, but you can click it up here if you want. And you go to where it says upload code and click where it says Michelson code file. And we navigate to that contract that we created and edited. Once we've uploaded that, we press continue. And now it's time to customize our contract. So we need to do a few things first. Where it says admin, we need to add our Tezos address. And then where it says metadata here, we're going to click add. I've created a special file which you can also download called example mint, and you'll see at the very top there's a bunch of information. What we need is this code here, which is a hex code where when it's a string value it actually reads Tezos storage content, but we want to copy just that number code there and we want to put it into the bytes section here. We want to leave this string section blank, and then I'm just going to click OK. Next I'm going to click add again, and this time I want to write in the string section content. The string section is where it takes all of the text. In the byte section we need to put the hex value, which is all numbers and just a few letters. Back in this example Mint document you'll see that there's some code here, and this is the code that JestemZero used originally to create the demons collection. You're going to need to edit that into whatever it is that you want, so we're going to just do that now. I'm going to copy this whole section and I'm going to paste this into our website to convert it into hex. So we're going to navigate to the Code Beautify website and make sure we're in the string to hex converter. And I'm going to paste that all in there, and you can actually increase the size of the box. And you'll see it's got all of the code there for us, but we need to change some details. So here, this is the name of Jestem's collection. So we need to change that to the name of our collection. So for now, I'm just going to call it test collection. And then under the description section, we want to make sure we don't change that. We just change what's in the speech marks after that, quotation marks after that. And you'll see it actually says, it has like a little line break there, and then it says fully on-chain blockchain agnostic collection. And I'm going to keep going and select all of that text until the next quotation mark. I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to change our text to something like, this is a test collection to mint art on chain. The next bit is interfaces. We want to leave these as they are. Then it's authors, and you can see here it says JestemZero. We want to change that to our name, so in my case that would be Retro Planning. And this, you want to make sure that is how your name appears on Objkt. And then we want to put under author address, and I'm going to paste that into there. And you'll see there's another section here as well. We can paste our address. There's another Tezos address there. There's a symbol, and Jestem has put in DSD Tezos, and we're going to call ours, all capitals, test. Type, we should be able to leave it as art. And then here's the interesting bit where it says image URI. We want to change that because that is where our thumbnail will go for the collection. I'm just going to delete what's in between these quotation marks here, and you'll be left with just this. And we're going to convert an image into code so that we can actually use this in our collection. So at this point, I'm going to jump over to easygift.com. I'm going to upload an image that I've prepared so that we can convert it to code. You can do a GIF file, a PNG file, or an SVG file. I think you can also do JPEGs and other things as well. And then click upload. And then where it says include tags for, I'm going to change that to say nothing. And then convert to URI. Now you can see this is all of the code that is needed to show our image on a browser. So I'm going to click copy for that. Command C or Control C, and then I'm going to jump back to Code Beautify where we were working on this JSON code, and I'm going to come back to this image URI section, and between those two quotation marks that we deleted, I'm going to paste my image. So that should be everything we need for our collection, and you'll see it's converted this into a hex code here. So we can just copy all of that to clipboard and go back to Better Core Dev where we were deploying our contract in the deploy section. And remember, we called this section content. In the bytes, we're going to paste that hex code like so and press OK. So those are only the two sections that you need. First one is this code, which is in this document up here. And the second one is the content of the collection, which is this code. You've got to customize it to have the information for your collection and then convert it to a hex code and then insert that in here. And then just make sure you've got your address in the admin section. And that should be everything you need. Now there's an option at the bottom to choose GhostNet or Mainnet. We're going to choose GhostNet just to make sure that the test works. And it's going to use those GhostNet coins that we got from the Tezos faucet. So it's not going to use any of our real money either. So if there are any mistakes or something doesn't work out, then at least we haven't spent our own money. Now I'm going to press execute. It's saying change wallet because currently I'm connected to the mainnet, and so I need to change my wallet to connect to the GhostNet. So I'm going to click change wallet, re-log back in, and it's going to await confirmation. We're going to be able to sign the contract, click confirm, and you can see it said GhostNet there. And that should be it. So I'm going to now jump over to Objkt, but we've got to make sure that we're in the GhostNet version of Objkt. Now the address for GhostNet Objkt is in the description below as well. You can just click connect. Now you can see here I've got a ton of test collections that I've minted, but we can see right at the bottom here, this is the collection we just minted here that says test collection. So we can see that that worked. There's nothing in there at the moment, but we can see that there is actually an address. So I can double click that address up there, the KT1 address. I can copy that and just go onto Better Core Dev and just check to make sure that that is the contract we just minted. So I can go back to Better Core Dev and I can go into, if I went to the home page, I can just search in this search box and you can see it was minted literally a minute ago here, and this is our contract. Now that we've minted that collection, we can start minting artwork, and you can see a bunch of tabs at the top. We're really only interested in interact, but once you've minted tokens, you'll be able to see them here. You can look at the metadata and you can look at the code as well. But interact is the tab you're going to be using because that's where JestemZero has created the functions that you're going to need to interact with your artwork, just like you would on Objkt. You'll see a bunch of functions here. So there's burn, mint, and transfer, which are going to be familiar. We're going to go to the mint section, and you can see it's a similar box to before when we were doing the actual collection. But this time we need to go back to the example mint, and we want to create all of the information we will need for our artwork. I'm going to jump back to Objkt, and you'll see there's a title, there's a thumbnail, and if you click into the artwork, the title appears again. You can also see that there's a description. There are tags here as well. You can see who the artist is. There are attributes as well, which are here. And if we click into properties, we can see that we've got the royalty section and the percentage, the MIME type, the actual artwork code, which is there under artifact. Notice that there is no IPFS link. And then we also have the license as well. We want to actually create all of those when we're minting our artwork. But to do that, we're going to need all of this information, which you see in the example mint document. So in this document, I've prepared all of the things that you'll need. The first thing you'll need is name. So we're going to have a look there. Now we could just copy this in and create all the metadata, but I find it's much more useful to create a separate document for each piece of artwork, have all of the code ready to go, and then you can copy and paste it. It's not just as simple as with Objkt of writing the title of your piece. So for instance, the piece we're going to mint is called Centaurus. I can't just copy and paste that text into here. We have to convert it to hex code. So we already had a go at doing that with the previous section, and we're going to do that again for all of these individual sections here. From everything from name, creator, the actual artwork, the description, the royalties, etc. So what I would suggest firstly is typing in all of the things that you'll need here first. So you can see in this example mint, we've got a name, so we'll put the name in there. We have to put the creators in, and that will be a TZ address. So I will copy my Tezos address into those quotation marks there. The artifact is going to be the actual artwork, which we'll come back to in a minute. The description is a little bit more complicated, but we'll write in something simple for now. Something like, this is a test mint. And let's say we want to go into the next line for this, and we'll say, it is only an example. Then let's say we want 2 line breaks, and we want to say dimensions are 14 by 14 pixels, and the size is, let's just pretend it's 10 kilobytes. The royalties section, you can see there's some JSON code there already. You can see there's also a TZ address. We're going to need to put our address in there. You can see it's automatically set to 17.5%, which in the code reads as 1,750. You can change that to whatever you want. So 5% would be 500, 15% would be 1,500, and 25% would be 2,500. So let's just stick to 17.5 for now. You've then got the MIME type. So is it a GIF, a PNG, or an SVG? And there's the rights. I've left in the hex code for no license or rights reserved. But if you want it to be something else, then you can just search that up and copy it exact, and then we can put that and get the code for that. The decimal section, I don't quite understand it, but I know it needs to remain as 30. That is the hex code, so we just leave that as is. Under author, we need the exact name of the artist again. So in my case, it's Retro Manny, and it's going to be inside those quotation marks. Author address is going to be a TZ address again. So we'll just paste my Tezos address there and just make sure that the quotation marks are still there. I'd highly recommend not putting your own quotation marks in, just leave the actual formatting of everything else as is, because sometimes if you put your own in, it can cause a mistake. Then we've got the attribute section where we've got name, sprite type, value, player. And I'm just going to give you an example of this. So if you jump over to Objkt, you can see under the attributes, there's the name and then there's the value. So you can see sprite type and then value type. In this case is trigger. It's the same here. So we've got sprite type, which is the name of the attribute, and then the value in this case is player. But we can change that to whatever we want. So we could say that this is, I don't know, hair color. Just doing an example here. And then brown. If you want to add extra, I would copy and paste these after the comma and then only write in these sections. And then finally we've got tags. I've left some default tags here that I used, and some of them are from Jestem, and you can see they appear here on Objkt as well. So once we've got all of those written out, I would recommend saving that as your particular artwork, whatever that might be. And then we can get to converting that into hex code, and we can put the hex code beneath each section. This makes it really easy then when we're minting just to copy and paste from this one document rather than keep converting on the fly. I'm going to now jump into Code Beautify again and make sure we're in the string to hex converter. I'm going to clear this so there's nothing in here. And I'm going to start with Centaurus. The name part, which is the string, doesn't need to change. We only want the bottom value that we've actually customized. So I'm going to click copy, and we can see once I paste it into there, as long as auto is selected, it will convert that to a hex string. I want to copy that and put that in my document. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that for all these sections here. I'm going to skip the artwork bit because we're going to come back to that, and I'm going to skip the description bit because I'm going to come back to that. And just to give you a heads up, if you do find that there are any issues and things aren't minting or working the way they should, it's likely that some of these quotation marks have been formatted and they're causing an issue. So just come back to this document, start again, and only input the bits of text that you need. Okay, so that's pretty much everything done apart from our description and our artwork. I'm just going to start with the description because it's a little bit more complicated. We want to be able to format the text so that we have line breaks. If I copy that and put it into Code Beautify, the code is created, but this won't actually work. That's because in order to generate a line break, it uses these A letters which don't work for whatever reason. We have to replace those with these 4 characters, 0D, 0A. Now this sounds complicated, but just follow me through and you'll be fine with it. We need to be able to know where to insert those sections. Now sometimes A is all we need, so we can just literally go in and we can just replace the A if we wanted to with ODOA. So for instance, I could just say, well, it's pretty obvious that there, if I delete that and add it back in, that there's a line break there. I can add it in, and again, it's pretty obvious that there's a line break there, and there's actually 2 line breaks, so I can put ODOA and then ODOA again, and then there's another one there, and another one there, and that should work. However, sometimes you might have a much more complicated description. When it comes to that, you're going to want to simplify it a little bit. So let's say there was loads of text and loads of lines, and you're not going to be able to see through tons and tons of little tiny A's that are there. In this one, there's quite a lot of text, so I'll just copy that, and you can see trying to find the A's is a little bit more tricky here. The little technique that I've figured out is to create really long line breaks. So I can see I need a line break here. If I do a couple, it creates a lot of A's for me. And again, I'll do that again here. So it's visually very easy to spot right there. You can see the A's are just there. And then where I want a double line break, I'll make it extra long, so I know that there's another line break there. So I could just expand that out and then say, okay, I'm going to now copy in the code for the line break, and that should be all good. And that's fine, you can do it that way. But you might want to double check that. So what I would suggest doing is copying this and going over to the hex to string converter. When we copy that in there, you'll notice that all those A's actually don't work, if you've noticed. So this is the error that it creates. So if we copy our line break from here now, ODOA, and we jump into these sections where we need them, and I just paste that there, you'll see it starts to correct everything for me. And this big long section, because I can visually see it at a glance, I know that was 2 line breaks, so I'll paste 2 in there. Then again, just here. And you can see that tested is all formatted correctly. Okay, so that's the description section. Hope that all made sense. If anything along the line doesn't make any sense, please drop me a comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And finally, all we need to do now is get our artwork. So remember what we did for the thumbnail of the collection, we're doing exactly the same thing here. So we're going to jump over to the easygift.com. Now, it's just really important to bear in mind that I've done a lot of tests and it seems like the max upper limit to mint through this technique is 20 kilobytes. Going any higher than that, and there are going to be issues. For instance, Better Call Dev crashed on me, or the wallet just didn't open up and it was just stuck in a loop. So try and keep your file sizes as small as possible. I know that can be difficult for some types of artwork, so just bear in mind if this technique is the right thing for you. I did have to compromise quite a bit on these pieces to make the animations shorter. It's just one of those things we've got to deal with. So I'm going to drag my GIF into this section here. Now I need to convert it. I just change the include tags to nothing and convert it to a data URI. Then I select all, copy, And remember, I can't just paste it into here. I've got to convert it into hex code. So I'm going to jump back to the string to hex converter, paste it into there, and click copy. And then I can paste my artwork in there. So now we have everything that we need to mint the first piece of artwork. I'm going to go back to Better Core Dev, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the Interact tab and on the Mint tab. And I'm going to go through one by one and insert all of this information. But first, I want to put my Tezos address in the to section here. Then it's a case of just clicking through, pressing add on the metadata section, and then in the string tab there, we just put in name, that's the first part, and then we put the hex code for the actual value, which is going to be Centaurus as a hex. Press OK, and then just work your way through each section. Okay, so that is all of the information now entered in, which is everything we should need to have our artwork minted on Objkt with all of the relevant information that we need, including the actual image. We're going to scroll down to the bottom, and again, because this collection is on GhostNet, which we can check in the URL there, it says GhostNet. You can also check at the top, it says GhostNet here. So we know we're only testing this out. We can then press execute and then click wallet. And this should be everything that we need to mint the artwork. Now just bear in mind, the larger the artwork, the longer you'll have to wait. And you can see, because of the size of it, the storage fee on this is 4 Tezos. So you can see it gets quite expensive. Let's just jump over to Objkt and make sure that that piece is minted. The most useful part of using Better Core Dev is the fact that when you go to mint, you can actually go to latest call. So rather than entering in all of the information again to mint your next piece of artwork, you can actually click latest call and it will look for the last thing that you minted, and all of those details will appear again, which is really handy because there's a lot of things we don't need to change. For instance, the author address, the author, the creator, the decimal section, maybe the MIME type, the rights, they can all stay the same. We may only need to change the name, the description, and the artwork itself. Now this is just a case of creating another document exactly the same with your next piece of artwork, and then copying and pasting the hex codes of that into here. Now I've already prepared some for my pieces, so I'm going to go and use those. So for instance, there's one for the Centaurus with the shield. So I've got the document already prepared here, and I can just go ahead and change what I need to. So I can double click the hex code that I'd saved, copy that, and then go over to the name section and paste it in there. I can take the artifact URI and paste that in here. You'll notice as well that it's now in alphabetical order, so it won't be the same as the order you actually entered the details in on your last call. And I can now execute that, and my next piece of artwork will be minted. Like I said, it's really important to actually create a document first of all your artworks so that you can make sure that everything is correct before you actually mint it. And there is the second piece, and everything should be as it appears here. Just going to change the thumbnail size. If you can see the titles there, the artist is there, and the collection is there. If I click on the thumbnail, you'll see there's a piece of work. The description has changed. The tags are still there. The attributes have changed. But all of this stuff is still the same apart from the artwork. Now, if your mint worked, you can move on to the next section. But if you had some issues and you need help troubleshooting them, then stick around for this bit, and I'm going to show you how you can find some of the common problems that happen. If I refresh, there it is. There's the thumbnail, there's the title, but we can see there's no data where the name of the artist should be. I'll just jump into the actual piece, and we'll notice that the title's there. I spelt the title wrong, so that's good that we're using the GhostNet, because I can pick up on that. The description has come through fine. There's no tags here. The attributes have come through, so I can see that the attributes are there. And just in the properties section, I can see that the details there seem to be fine, but the royalties haven't come through. The image is there and the licensing there is there. So there's a few things to fix. To do that, I can actually jump back into Better Core Dev. If I click tokens, you'll see there's the first token that got minted, and here's the metadata. This is the stuff that we entered in. It shouldn't be as complicated now that you know what you're looking at. You can see that compared to the original information that's in this section, there's some problems, and it seems to be with the quotation marks. There are supposed to be quotation marks on the inside here, here, and I think there's supposed to be some quotation marks. Yep, there's some missing here as well. So that all needs correcting. Now hopefully in your case that shouldn't happen, but sometimes the formatting on here can actually get messed up, and so it needs correcting. So to fix that, what I can do easily is just select the hex code, jump back into the hex to string converter, not the string to hex converter, but the hex to string converter, and paste it in there. And I can see straight away that, look, that hasn't got the actual quotation marks in there. So I can add those in, like so, copy that, and then if I jump back into string to hex, I can copy that in there and then take the new code, and that should have corrected our problem. So we'll go back into our mint section. So this is the last mint that we did. So all of the information is still here, and we can just go in and replace the issues that we had. So we know we had an issue with the creator section, so I'm going to correct that. There's also an issue with the royalty section, so I'm going to correct that there. And make sure you're actually clicking on this little pen icon. Don't change it here. Actually click that pencil icon and paste it in, and then click OK. Now, all things being well, this should actually execute properly this time. So I'm going to click execute and go through the same process again, and hopefully that will show that the piece has minted this time. And you can see the second one has now appeared. Now this is only on Ghostnet. If you were minting on Mainnet, you'd obviously have to burn the last piece. But we can see that this has been corrected. We can see that the artist is now appearing at the bottom, and if I click into it, we can see that everything else is all fine. The tags have shown up, the royalties are now working here. Okay, so all those issues have now been corrected. So hopefully that helps you troubleshoot a little bit. Next, I'm going to show you how you can burn the old artwork. So if we go back into Better Core Dev, we can see that under our Interact tab, there's also a burn function. If we click burn, I can actually burn the token ID of the pieces that I've created. If I go to test collection, if I click into it, it'll also give me a web address at the top. And you can see there's an ID number there right after the contract address. So it'll be /0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, etc. We can see that the ID of this one is 0 because it's the first piece in the contract. So now that I know that, I can go to the burn function and just simply select 0, which is already there, and then press execute. And once that's done, I can go back into the collection. If I click on test collection, it should disappear shortly. Sometimes it doesn't work and you might need to try it again, but on this occasion it worked and it's gone. So now we're just left with the 1. Do bear in mind though that now your first piece in the collection will start with whatever ID that is. The only thing left to do now is, once you've tested and tested and tested and made sure that you've got your collection looking exactly the way you want it, it's time to mint onto Mainnet. To do that, it's exactly the same process. So rather than using the Tezos faucet, we're going to have to make sure we've got Tezos in our actual wallet. Once you've loaded up your wallet, rather than minting on GhostNet, you can click deploy. You can add the Mickelson code exactly as you did before. Add the same metadata that you did before. But then this time, instead of selecting GhostNet at the bottom, we select Mainnet and then we click execute. What will then happen is it will get minted to Mainnet, and then it's exactly the same process. Again, you take the collection contract address, you go to Better Core Dev, you go to search for the contract, and then go to interact, and you mint as normal. But this time you'll notice it will say Mainnet in the corner, and when you click execute, it might ask you to change your wallet because you've been using GhostNet, as you can see in the corner, and it's going to ask you to re-log in, but this time with Mainnet. I would just like to say a massive thank you to JestemZero for creating this contract and being a massive help in me putting this video together and in me actually putting my collection out there. And also Kyle Flemmer, who was one of the first people to use the contract and has also been a massive help to me in putting this all together. If you haven't yet followed me on X, then please go and do that. And if you haven't followed me on Objkt, then please go ahead and do that as well. All of the links are in the description below. Hopefully you're going to have a much smoother run than we all did, and you'll be creating some on-chain Tezos artwork real soon.